Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and help you engage with public policy in the great state of Texas. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and we just passed the second anniversary of the school shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. I know we've talked about it several times on this podcast, and I know that many of us remember where we were when we received the news. And I hope we never forget how we felt. And between that and all of the other stories of gun violence we've heard of or experienced ourselves, I hope we use that as motivation to act to end gun violence in Texas and beyond. I'm grateful that Texas Impact has an issue team working to end gun violence in Texas. Joining us today to talk about that work is Texas Impact's policy advocate, Bobby Watson. He'll talk to us about that team and their visibility project, Vidas Robadas. They've been setting up displays at congregations and other host sites throughout Texas to increase visibility of the toll gun violence takes in all of our communities. I hope you'll check that out on our website at texasimpact.org for more information or to join a team, either that team or one of our other issue area teams. While you're there, I hope you'll check out the Texas Faith Votes campaign for tools and resources to engage your congregation and community in the important civic engagement work that needs to take place this election cycle. Y'all, we're going to get to November and everybody's going to wish that they had a plan in place. That planning takes time, and now is the perfect time to start. So check it out and let us know if you have any questions. All right, y'all, that's enough wind up for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Bobby Watson. Joining us for today's conversation is Texas Impact's policy advocate, Bobby Watson. Bobby, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott. Glad to be here.
It is summer, and it has been a busy summer for you so far. I'm looking forward to that conversation, or about all the things you've been doing. But how are you feeling otherwise?
I'm feeling good. We're doing a lot of good work all around Texas. The Vidas Robadas project we're working on is kind of everywhere now, so I'm feeling good.
I am glad you're feeling good because I just look at the office calendar and see all the places that you are, and I feel for you. But that means you're doing some great work and reaching a lot of Texas. So let's talk about that some. You've been staffing Texas Impact's Ending Gun Violence issue team for I believe, almost 2 years now. Let's start by having you talk about that team for just a second. I found in the meetings that I've been that it is a politically diverse group in terms of how they've come to work on these issues. Talk some about that.
Yeah, so, we developed these teams in the middle of last session in 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago, I guess, last year, 2023. And that was kind of a way to get these teams of people who were cared about these issues to engage the legislature on that specific one. And the Ending Gun Violence issue team specifically was trying to get people gun owners and people who are more moderate or diverse in the political spectrum who agreed on some of these core principles of what we call common sense gun reform. And so that team was really true to that, where we had a lot of older, middle-aged gun-owning men and then a plethora of other people of several people who had personal experiences with some gun violence, and kind of this team of people, like you said, who are diverse, perhaps politically, but really felt strongly and agreed on these core principles that we do need to change something about gun violence. We do need to address it in some way.
And I think Uvalde for many was kind of that moment where people. Some even shifted their positions after that, but many realized that was a moment that they had to start taking action, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us too, that was kind of when we started working on gun violence, and also when we were approached by several people on the team and others who felt like Uvalde was so close and it felt so real that gun violence in all of its forms, but mass shootings particularly, we couldn't ignore anymore, that the cost of inaction was too high. So definitely that was a catalyst for Texas specifically.
Yeah, so that team did have some small victories during the last legislative session in terms of kind of surprisingly late in the game moving a priority bill out of committee. But I think it's clear that there's still a lot of work to do. I know you focused on raising awareness and bringing visibility to the effects of gun violence. Talk to us about those efforts and specifically the Vidas Robadas program that you've mentioned already.
Yeah, so one of the things that Texas Impact and also a lot of other groups who worked on gun violence prevention felt in the legislature is that while we did see some incremental wins that were pretty historic in terms of the atmosphere of the legislature, that one thing that needed to be addressed was also culture. And this idea of what gun ownership and gun safety means. And so Vidas Robadas was Texas Impact's response to that, where we have started creating these installations across Texas that have these T-shirt memorials that either name or represent members of a community who have died from gun violence. And the point of these installations are for certain areas, for certain congregations and groups to bring awareness to how local gun violence is, how widespread it is, how it really does affect so many Texans and Americans. And then for other congregations who have experienced it firsthand, a way to process it and to have to honor the people that they've lost and to really have a tactile and visual way of honoring them. And so that's what this project is going for, is to provide a visual to people for the local impact, to see their explicit neighbors and brothers and sisters who they've lost. And it's been quite successful at that, I think.
Yeah, so talk to us about what does it look like when this takes place at a congregation or local host site?
Yeah, and that's a good point, that we're not only at congregations, we've also had these installations be at universities, several in San Antonio, and we're hoping to do more. So these installations, a location that we've been talking to, whether it's University of Congregation, decides how many T-shirts they want to display and where they want to display them. And usually they try and pick a high-traffic area, like alongside a road, or maybe in a high-traffic foot area if there's somewhere where people walk around a bunch. And it is a sort of wall or field of shirts that some of them, if it's for a homicide victim, they name the homicide victim, and others are white shirts that represent victims of suicide. And it just shows a sea of these victims. So it really gives people both shows the depth and the number of it, but also has a really human element where we see something that's common, like a T-shirt that we know that someone might have worn, and we see the absence of them.
Why is this visibility work so important?
Well, I think kind of what I said earlier about there are some people who care about gun violence or know that it's a problem but don't really understand that it's directly in their back and in their neighborhood, in their county. So, the way we do this, the process of this is that we go to a county's medical examiner's office and have them provide with us a list of the gun violence victims from the past 5 years. And that number can be staggering. Like for Harris County, it was 4,100 plus from 2018 to 2023. And there are people in those communities who aren't aware of that. So trying to show people that it's not just something you hear about on the news, that it's not just mass shootings, while horrific and terrible, those aren't the only forms of gun violence. Like suicide specifically. What's surprising to so many people is that suicides are over 50% of most gun-related deaths. So trying to talk about that particular aspect as well, and through all of this, trying to put victims at the center of it so that we can all come around those that we have lost.
What's the end goal of both this project and the work that the team is trying to do?
Well, for the team, I will say that it's kind of in the name, where trying to end gun violence, but that's a hopeful goal.
We like to be aspirational.
We like to be aspirational.
I like that, yeah.
On some concrete of what we're trying to achieve with this project is through Vidas Robadas, we're hoping to create these citywide networks of advocates, faith community members, and officials who care about this issue and want to work on it for the long haul. And we're starting to see some of those networks grow and build. And then we're trying to see some city initiatives, and we've seen some of that happen. Houston's done some great stuff. San Antonio, we were part of a weapons exchange, and trying to build on these safety measures in the city. And a huge part is also we're trying to work on culture change, like I mentioned earlier. So having these conversations in communities, emphasizing gun safety. In San Antonio, one of the things we sometimes will do, or partners will help us do, is distribute handgun locks or gun safes at these installations. And that's trying to change the conversation around gun ownership to be one that's more public safety minded, to be more cognitive, and to reduce gun thefts that can lead to crimes or accidental shootings by kids, or if you don't lock up your gun and you perhaps have a teenager or a kid who's struggling, then they access it and take their own life, trying to prevent deaths like that and change the culture around that to make it people more aware of it. And then, of course, one of the things that Texas Impact works on is legislation. So we're still pushing for legislative change. The kind of final plan for this project is at the start of next session in 2025, we will have a massive demonstration as an advocacy day for gun violence prevention with all of these shirts from across Texas. And we're hoping to use that as a launching pad for our legislative work next session to have some statewide changes to work on gun violence prevention.
Love that. I know that will be a powerful display at the Texas Capitol, and we'll all look forward to seeing that and seeing you there. But another big event that you recently had a chance to attend was you all set up outside of the NRA convention in, I believe it was Dallas, right? I knew it was North Texas.
Yep.
Talk to us about that event and what did you take from that experience?
Yeah, so I thought it was a really successful event. We partnered with a lot of other organizations like Gifford's Gun Owners for Safety and Moms Demand Action, Everytown. We all kind of came together for a gun violence prevention rally, where also we were trying to provide some context and conversation around holding the NRA, the National Rifle Association, accountable for what we would say some actions in bad faith in the conversation. And we were really happy with the event. We had strong turnout, and particularly it was a really peaceful event. There was some anxiety around counter-protesting, and it particularly with how the political culture is right now. But it was a really peaceful event. We were in a popular walkway where NRA participants were walking through our event, and we were all very cordial and even had some open conversations. And I think part of that, one person brought this to my attention. They thought part of that was having a large Vidas Robadas display there, that having the names of victims of the community was enough to prevent people from wanting to engage more aggressively. Because, it's hard when you have something so sombering right there. So I was really grateful for that and feel hopeful both for the community in Dallas and engage that. We had around 150 participants, and also for how peaceful and easy the event turned out to be. So overall, we were really happy with it.
Love that, and thank you for that public witness. I know more and more people are wanting to take part in this. I think you have 3 displays taking place this weekend as we record on June 6th. How can people sign up to host?
Easy. Just shoot me an email or go to our page on our website. Vidas Robadas is under our campaigns. There is information there about how to bring an installation to your location, as well as it provides my email. And you through that process, we'll start talking and coordinating, and we'll bring a Vidas Robadas display to y'all.
It sounds like, and I know you've done a lot of work in the urban areas. You've mentioned San Antonio, you've mentioned Dallas, you've mentioned Houston. Have you had any interest, or would there be interest in doing some of these events in other parts of the state?
Yeah, we really want to go to anywhere that's interested and want to hit as much of Texas as we can. We know that gun violence is not something that's just in urban communities, it's also in rural communities. So we would love to get to expand that outreach to some of these areas. We've had some areas in Hays County and that have been interested, but we would love to really go anywhere and everywhere.
And I assume that would help with the legislative strategy once you get to session. If there had been an event in a particular legislator's community, they'd probably be more likely to pay attention, right?
Yeah, that definitely provides some legitimacy that a majority of Texans care about this issue. And we know the polls indicate that a majority of Texans care about some common sense guns. So we would love to have some data on our part with a Vidas Robadas display that backs that up.
Love that, and look forward to seeing them all over Texas. Bobby, what's next? What do you hope people will do? What are the next steps, other than hosting a Vidas Robadas near you? Well,
I also hope people join our Ending Gun Violence Issue team. That team has been really critical to the start of this project. A lot of our first installations came from members on that team. So if you can join our team to be a part of that process, that helps out a ton. Also, be a Texas Impact member and helping fund this project really helps us out. Any donations to us. You also can specifically donate to Vidas Robadas. There's a part on our page, on the Vidas Robadas page on our website, where you can donate to sponsor a shirt. And that really helps for locations who can't afford holiest installations on our own. So that financial support is critical.
All right. Bobby Watson, really appreciate your time today and appreciate the work you're doing throughout the state of Texas to create a more safe and better Texas for all of us, our kids and grandkids. So thanks again, Bobby.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Scott.
I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with Bobby, and I hope you'll consider joining the Ending Gun Violence team or consider hosting a Vidas Robadas display. As always, Texas Impact has resources for you to learn more and get involved. For those resources and so much more, check out texasimpact.org. While you're there, I hope you'll take a moment to sign up to be a member of Texas Impact. As Bobby mentioned during our conversation, your membership supports this podcast and all of the work to engage Texans of faith to advocate for a more just and equitable Texas. If you have questions about any of it, please reach out. You can reach me at scott@texasimpact.org. And with that, I think it's time to close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnet, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.